No, I'm not the Christmas fairy. I know I may look it, but I'm just here to teach you how to crochet. What's up guys, it's Amelia and welcome back to my channel. Happy Wednesday and Merry Christmas, Happy December, one of my favorite months. One of my favorite months of the entire year. I love Christmas, so excited for it to be the month of Christmas and the month of my birthday. So today we're going to be crocheting Christmas coasters, and if you've never crocheted before, don't worry, I will be showing you step by step all the stitches and everything we have to do for this project. And making coasters is pretty simple and it's a good way to start, and also it would be a really fun present to give someone for Christmas, and it protects your furniture, which, you know, we all need to protect our mahogany furniture. I love making coasters because they're actually useful, so you can just keep making them and you feel okay about it because there's a use for them. I had my fall coasters that I made in my fall crocheted coasters video a few weeks ago, and today we're going to be switching those out for some fun Christmas ones. So let's get on to the tutorial. Everything you're going to need is the same across all the coasters, except of course different colors of yarn and things like that. So we're going to be using yarn. I like to use Caron Simply Soft yarn, scissors, a yarn needle to sew in our loose ends, and a crochet hook. So if you've never crocheted before, do not worry. I will show you the basics of crocheting and all the different stitches that we're going to do today, and I will tell you how to do them step by step. So the first thing you're going to need to do is a slip knot. So how I do that is you hold the yarn with your finger and thumb and wrap around your middle finger and your forefinger, and then push the leftover yarn in between your fingers and grab that loop, and then grab the tail and hold the loop and pull. And then if you hold the knot, you can adjust the size of the loop by pulling on the tail. So put your hook in your loop, and then the first thing we're going to do is a chain. So a chain is simply yarning over and then pulling the yarn back through the original loop. So that's one chain, and we're going to chain 16. After you've chained 16, you're going to skip the last chain that you did, and you're going to go and stitch into the second chain from your hook. And we're going to do a stitch called a half double crochet. So to do a half double crochet, you yarn over and then go through the chain. So you want to have 2 loops on top of the hook and then 1 loop underneath. You yarn over again. Now you have 3 loops on your hook. Now you're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. So I'm going to go back across and continue doing half double crochets, and there will be 15 half double crochets in total. And when you get to the end of your 15 stitches, you're going to chain 1 and then turn your piece. So now we're going to do kind of the fringe bottom of the Christmas tree. So we're going to create scallops going across the bottom. Skip this first stitch, and we're going to stitch straight into the second one. So I'm going to do a double crochet stitch, which is where you yarn over, and then I'm going to stitch into the second stitch from my chain, come through. There are 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, and then only go through the first 2, yarn over again, and pull through those 2 loops on your hook. That's a double crochet. So we're going to do 5 double crochets into that same stitch. So after you do your 5 double crochets, you're going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch. And a slip stitch is where you go through the stitch, yarn over, and then just pull that loop through the 1 loop that's on your hook. So now we've created this nice little scallop. So now we're going to repeat that again. We're going to skip this next stitch and do 5 double crochet stitches into this stitch, slip stitch into the next stitch, and we're going to keep repeating this pattern. And because we should have 15 stitches across, we should be able to do 5 of these scallops. So continue all the way across until you have 5 of these scallops. And when you're done, your piece is going to look like this. So now we're going to begin the process of making these, because we're going to layer them on top of each other to make the layers of the tree. So for the second row, you're going to chain 13 stitches. Then you're going to skip the last chain that you did, and you're going to half double crochet back across for 12 stitches. And after you're done with that first row, you're going to chain 1 and turn. Then we're going to repeat the same process for the scallops. So I'm going to go ahead and skip my first stitch, double crochet 5 stitches into this second stitch, and then slip stitch into the third stitch, repeating that process 4 times for 4 scallops. And I just decided to switch to a lighter yarn because I think it would look really cute to have the tree kind of striped with the branches, but you can totally use the same color if you want. Then go ahead and make that same piece again, but I'm making it in my other color yarn since I want to have the branches alternating. So make another one with 4 little, what are these called? I called them something earlier. Scallops. So now we're going to make our fourth piece, and I'm going to use my light green yarn. For this piece, you can begin with 10 chains and skip the last chain that you did and half double crochet 9 stitches back across. When you get to the end of that row, chain 1 and turn. And now begin your scallop pattern, and this time we're only going to have 3 scallops across. For the last row, you're going to begin with 7 chains and then skip the last chain that you did and half double crochet 6 stitches back across. Then go ahead and chain 1 and turn. And now, since we only have 6 stitches, we're only going to do 2 scallops. So do your scallop pattern and make 2 scallops. These are what all of your pieces are going to look like, and I actually got one of my mugs and made sure it's a good size for a mug. Of course, there's already tea in it. So because the tree has little scallops and it's already pretty fancy, I'm not going to go crazy with the star, and I just want to make it a circle. Chain 2. And when you're crocheting in a circle, a lot of people like to start with something called a magic ring or magic circle, so you can do that if you want, but I like to just start with 2 chains and then I just stitch back into the first chain that I did. So I'm going to do double crochets into this first stitch that I did, which is where you yarn over, go through the loop, yarn over again, through the first 2 loops on your hook, then you yarn over again and go through both of those. And I'm going to go ahead and do 8 of those stitches into this first chain. After your 8 stitches, you're going to look something like this, and then I like to just pull on the string to cinch up the middle, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch that I did, chain 1 and tie it off. So now that we have all of these pieces, we're going to go ahead and stitch them together. So I put my yarn needle on the longest tail that I had, and I'm going to weave it down through this lighter green piece down to the base, so right at the bottom of this first scallop. I'm just going to secure it with stitches, go down through this first row. And then because I'm using the same color yarn as this piece, I can come back up through the scallop and it will not show. And then you can go back down and do a few more stitches. After you do a few stitches here, you can stitch along the back to continue stitching along the entire thing. So this is what your piece should look like after it's sewed on, and this is what the back looks like on mine. So you can see some of the stitches, but I tried to keep it not super messy. So just keep doing that for all of the other rows. So now we're going to do the little wooden part of the tree. So I'm just going to chain 5, and then I'm going to half double crochet back across 4 stitches, skipping the last chain that I did. Then chain 1 and turn, and then I'm going to do 2 more rows of just half double crochets across 4 stitches, chaining 1 and turning. In all, it'll be 3 rows deep. And then you'll have a piece that looks like this. So I decided to stitch on my stem so that it's going vertically because I think it looks a little bit more tree-like. This is what the back looks like after I stitched it on, and we are done with our first coaster. Start off with your slip knot, and then I'm going to chain 4, and then skipping the last chain that I did, I'm going to single crochet 3 stitches back across. And a single crochet is just where you go through your stitch, yarn over, you have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over again, and pull through both of those loops. So do 3 single crochets across, then chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to increase this row, so the first thing we're going to do is single crochet 2 stitches into this first stitch. In the second stitch, you're just going to do 1 single crochet, and then in the third stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets again. So ultimately, you'll be increasing your 3 single crochet row to one that is 5 stitches across. Then you're going to chain 1 and turn. For this next row, we're going to do the same thing. So 2 single crochets on the first stitch. The next 3 stitches are going to be just 1 single crochet in each stitch. And then in the 5th stitch, you're going to do 2 single crochets, increasing your row of 5 to 7. Then chain 1 and turn. For the next row, we're going to do the same thing again. 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 5 single crochets across, and then in the last stitch, 2 single crochets again, turning our 7 stitches into 9. Then at the end, you're going to chain 1 and turn. So now your piece looks like this. For the next row, we're just going to do 1 stitch in each across of 9 stitches. And at the end of that row, you're going to chain 1 and turn. So now your piece should look like this. So now we're going to start the decrease process of the head. So I'm going to do a decrease stitch in the first 2 stitches. So to do a decrease stitch, you're going to go through the first stitch and yarn over, through the second stitch and yarn over. Then you'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3 to combine those 2 stitches into 1. Then you're going to do 5 single crochets across. Last 2 stitches, you're going to do another decrease stitch to combine them into 1. So now you should have 7 stitches across. Chain 1 and turn. For this next row, we're going to do another decreased stitch first. So combine the first 2 stitches into 1 and then do 3 regular single crochets in the next 3 stitches. And then in the last 2 stitches, combine them into a decreased stitch. And chain 1 and turn. This is our last decrease row before we start on the body. So last thing is just another decrease stitch, 1 single crochet, and another decrease stitch. Chain 1 and turn. And now your head should have 3 stitches across the bottom. So basically we just crocheted a little circle. We're going to start on the arms. So instead of chaining 1 and turning like we have been doing, we're just going to chain 6. And then we're going to turn and stitch back 5 single crochets, skipping that first chain that you did. After you do those 5 single crochets, you're just going to continue by stitching in those 3 single crochets across the bottom of the head. And then to make the second arm, we're going to chain 6 again and turn, and then stitch back our 5 single crochets across. And after you've done those 5 stitches, go ahead and stitch across with the 3 stitches for the body. So this is what your piece should look like now. So I want the arms to be 2 rows thick, so I'm going to stitch 5 stitches to the end of this arm. When you get to the end of the arm, chain 1 and turn. So because it's already 2 stitches, I don't want to stitch back across, so I'm going to slip stitch across. You're going to slip stitch 4 times, and you're only slip stitching 4 times because now we're going to start on the body. You're going to start single crocheting, and you're going to single crochet until the end of the other arm to make it 2 rows thick. Once you reach the other arm, your piece is going to look like this, and then you're just going to chain 1 and turn. So for this arm, when you do your slip stitches, you're only going to do 3. So then we have 6 single crochet stitches across. So go ahead and stitch 6 single crochets in the next 6 stitches. So then you're going to chain 1 and turn. So then you're going to do 1 more row of just single crochet stitches and then chain 1 and turn, and your piece is going to look like this. So now we're going to start on the leg. So for each row, you're going to do 3 single crochet stitches across, chain 1 and turn, and you're going to do that for 5 rows. So here's what the leg looks like. So now for the very last row, I'm just going to do a decrease stitch to combine all 3 of these stitches into 1. So I'm just going to go through all 3 stitches, yarn over, and then go through all 4 loops on my hook. Then I'm going to chain 1, I'm going to cut this string and tie it off. Start a new slip knot and repeat that process for this second leg. So your finished gingerbread man body should look like this. I'm going to go in with my yarn needle and weave in all of these edges. So using some black yarn, I'm just going to tie a knot in the back of the head and then come through the front with a yarn needle, stitch straight stitches kind of up and down on top of each other to form little eyes. You could use buttons or something for the eyes, but I just decided I wanted to use yarn. So to make his little bow tie, I'm going to start by chaining 2. In the second chain from my hook, I'm going to do a double crochet stitch where you yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops on your hook, yarn over again to go through those last 2. And I'm going to do 3 double crochet stitches. When you're done with those 3 stitches, your piece will look like this. So then I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to come back down and slip stitch in that original chain that I stitched in. And now I'm going to do 4 double crochet stitches from this direction into the center chain. Your bow tie will look like this. Slip stitch into this center chain and cut my yarn, leaving a nice long tail. With the long tail that you left, put your yarn needle on it, and then I'm going to start wrapping my yarn around the center of this little bow tie, maybe 5 or 6 times. Then you're going to come around to the back and pinching the center nice and tight, you're going to use your yarn needle to go underneath of all of the stitches that you made. Weave your thread in through the bow tie a few times just to make sure it's secure. And when you're done with that, your bow tie will look like this. So using the same technique that we did for the eyes, stitch on the little buttons. I'm going to get back my light brown yarn and we're going to stitch a border all the way around to clean up the edges and make him look super cute. So you can start anywhere you want around the body. I'm just going to start near the head. So put your slip knot on your hook and start off with a little slip stitch. So now we're just going to do single crochet stitches all the way around. I'm just going to use white yarn and I'm going to make a little smile. So the very last step of the gingerbread man is just going to be to stitch around the edge with white yarn to make it look like he has a little icing border. And I found it was easier to do 2 stitches in each stitch around the curves. That way it doesn't curl up like this one did, but it'll lay flat. And then all you have to do is tie in these strings and he's done. and start with my dark brown yarn, and I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to do 6 single crochet stitches into the second chain from my hook. For row 2, I'm going to go around and do 2 single crochet stitches into each stitch around, turning my 6 into 12. When you're done, your piece will look like this. And now we're going to do a third row. In the first stitch, I'm going to do a single crochet. Second stitch, I'm going to do 2 single crochets, and I'm going to repeat that pattern all the way around to turn our 12 stitches into 18. After the third row, your piece should look like this. For the fourth row, we're going to do another increased row. First stitch is 1 single crochet, second stitch is 1 single crochet, but the third stitch is going to have 2 single crochets to turn our 18 stitches into 24 stitches. Then your piece will look like this. For the fifth row, we're going to do another increased row, so this time it's going to be 3 single crochets in a row, and in the fourth stitch, you're going to do your 2 single crochets to turn our 24 stitches into 30. And then your piece will look like this. Do that again, we're going to do 4 single crochets in a row. Fifth stitch is going to be 2 single crochets to turn our 30 stitches into 36. Now we're going to do 5 stitches across that are single crochet, and in the sixth stitch is going to be 2 single crochet stitches to turn our 36 into 42. And that's the final increase row. So now we're going to make the nose of the reindeer. So I'm going to kind of start here for the nose and then end here. So all I'm going to do is do half double crochets all the way around and then end here. And when you do get to the point of that nose, do 2 half double crochets into 1 stitch to make it go around the curve. So to make the ear for the reindeer, you're going to chain 5 and then skip the last chain that you did and stitch back across 4 single crochet stitches. Then you're going to chain 1 and turn and do 1 more row, just 4 single crochet stitches across. Chain 1 and turn. For this third row, you're going to do 1 single crochet, and then you're going to do a decrease stitch for the second and third stitches and combine those 2 together, and then do a single crochet. Chain 1 and turn. Then you're going to do 1 big decrease stitch to combine all 3 of these into 1 stitch. Finish with 1 chain and then make another one of these for the ears. So I'm making Rudolph, so I'm just going to do 2 little spike antlers instead of big antlers that one of the bigger reindeer would have. You're going to start with the light brown yarn, and we're going to chain 4, and then skipping the last chain that you did, we're going to stitch back across 3 single crochet stitches. Chain 1 and turn. Now I'm going to repeat that same pattern for 4 more rows and then finish it off with 1 big decrease stitch, and then I'm going to repeat this entire thing again to make 2 antlers. So for Rudolph's nose, 2 chains and then 8 double crochet stitches into the second chain from your hook, and then slip stitch to the first stitch. Now that we have all the pieces, all we have to do is sew them together. Thank you guys so much for joining me today to make Christmas crocheted coasters. I really hope you get a chance to make 1 or 7, and if you make a ton, you could even string them together for a garland or something like that, which would be really fun. Also, please let me know in the comments your favorite Christmas movie. I'm trying to watch a ton of new Christmas movies that I've never seen before this year, so drop your favorite one in the comments below and I will check it out. Thanks again so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing week, and I'll see you next Wednesday for another video. Bye guys! Also, should I make a tutorial on how to make these earrings? I made these earrings a long time ago and they're really simple and so cute. Let me know. Let me know. So we're going to be making 3 different coasters today. We're going to be doing, wait, what are we going to be doing? Let's look.